Kathleen Ayers. Ladies, thanks so much for taking the time to talk to us.
Absolutely. Thank you for having
Very
us.
welcome.
So we went from a Brady Bunch screen last week where we had like a million authors in tiny little boxes to actually having just 2 releases this week and time to really talk about your books, which I'm excited about because they're both brand new series that are launching this week.
Yes.
And Kathleen, why don't we start with yours? Yours is Sinfully Wed, and it's the first book in the Five Deadly
Sins. In the 5 Deadly Sins. The reason there's only 5 is because I wasn't sure I could think of 7. But it is the story of the Sinclair family. They are a little uncivilized. They're a little ill-mannered. They are the second family of an earl. And their mother was an actress, then became the earl's mistress when he was married to another woman. And so they are sort of looked down upon in London society. And when the elder brother, the elder half brother, inherits the earldom, he banishes them. Yes, he's a terrible half brother. You'll find out how horrible in the book. But it all works out in the end. Because they are all brought back to London eventually. And this is sort of where their story starts. You get a little bit of a prologue. You get to see how everything went down. And then you get to see the eldest one in Sinfully Wed, that is Jordan. He's the eldest. You get to see him make a match. So it's really, and this is one of my favorite heroines that I've ever written. And I have to say, I was very cautious about writing her because she is so odd and she is very quirky and she's very different. And the idea came to me. I have a very dear friend who loves all things crime related. She loves Dateline. She loves serial killers on Netflix. She watches and reads all of that stuff. And one day we were having lunch and I thought to myself, what if she were alive in the 19th century? What would she would be considered?
There are no podcasts.
Right. Where would she get her information and how strange would everybody view her? So my heroine in this book, Odessa, she uses it, to get rid of unwelcome suitors by speaking about things like that. And secondly, she's obsessed with oddities and curiosities and criminal broadsides and executions and pirates and all these things that young ladies weren't supposed to know about, right? And she's obsessed with all these gruesome details. And so she's very quirky. And as she says, I don't embroider. So what else was I going to do? So she entertains it. And one of the great parts about the book, I'm just rambling on. Tell me when to stop.
No, keep going.
But so I did a lot of research on some different places in London that you would find a ghost or it's haunted.
Oh,
fun. But the most fascinating one was Madame Tussaud's. And it existed in London in 1835, which is about when the book takes place. And her history alone is an entire novel. She was a fascinating woman, and how she created death masks and wax figures in her chamber of horrors, and which are all things that Odessa takes the hero to go see, by the way. Yeah, and she tries to seduce him in the chamber of horrors, but it's just really interesting. She to me was fascinating. And the criminal broadsides become penny dreadfuls eventually. So it's a really interesting, unusual bit of history into early London. So I thought it was kind of fun.
Oh, it sounds really interesting too, and like something I haven't never read before. I made a note to look up the Madame Tussaud thing to see her history because I don't know anything about that. I loved when I read the blurb that you talked about her chasing off suitors.
Oh yes,
she didn't want to get married, and I thought, and then he's stuck. And I was thinking about how much fun it would be to watch them both do that when she's trying so hard to shake him and he can't let go because he's got to have his debts paid.
Yes, he can't beg off, and so she just becomes more and more. I've had several readers who've read the arc tell me that they laughed out loud during their courtship because she does terrible things. She rubs onions all over herself. She burps. She pads her body so she looks like a round ball. I mean, she does all kinds of terrible things so that, and then
She'll go away.
she has a favorite story about a German baker who put his wife in a pie, and she
Oh,
always
geez.
tells that story. So she does all these really unusual things, and I wanted her to be different. She's definitely different.
Yeah, no, I love that, and then I love the idea of what it would be like to watch them finally realize who each other is too.
They do, and the way that they come together is very meaningful because they're both on the fringes of society, right? And the very reasons that make other men not like her are why he does like her, because she's not a typical well-bred young lady. She has all these weird little hobbies, and she's interesting, right? And so, and he's an earl, but he's really quite rough. Yeah. And that's what she likes. So they make a good match. In the end, they make a really good match, and she finds someone that loves her for who she is. The whole theme of the series is no matter how weird you are, right? How strange, how different, how others view you, you're worthy of love, and you find love. So that's sort of my theme for the series.
Oh, that's wonderful. And that's the promise that we all want. I think it's one of the reasons we read romance, to see, because we want to be seen by somebody who actually values us for who we are, you know, and
warts and all.
Yeah. And that you know, there's somebody for everybody. So I'm really looking forward to this one, and I love that it's steamy too. So not sure about the seducing in the room of horrors thing, but I'll go with you there until we.
No, there's sex in a moving carriage, which I have not done before and wanted to try it. They both enjoyed themselves, so it's perfectly good.
Oh, it sounds like so much fun. So, Audrey, this is your first Dragonblade release with us. And it is also the first book in a new series. It's Persuading the Earl. The cover for this one, I love the cover for this one. The colors.
Oh, it's beautiful. I saw it, Audrey. It's gorgeous. Yes.
Yeah, I'm so pleased with the color. It's fantastic.
Yeah. And this one we get a little bit of a mystery too. So it's the first book in the Country House Mysteries series.
Yes, that's right. Yes. In some respects, it's a bit like Kathleen's. I'm talking about or writing about people who are on the fringes of society, who don't sort of fit into the mold of beautiful, rich, and meek in a lot of cases. My heroines are a group of friends, and they're classed as wallflowers, but they have decided they're not going to get married for various reasons. So they are constrained by society in some respects, but they have taken control in other respects. And the first heroine is Amelia. She's decided, because she has a bad injury, and she's got a lot of scars from when a horse attacked her. And I could write about this with some authority, not because I've done it, but it happened to a friend. Oh. Now, I took it a little bit to the extreme with Amelia, but it was quite interesting, sort of writing about it and understanding what it would have been like. And my hero is a silly fool. He's pining after a woman that jilted him, and he is off marriage completely. But unfortunately, he's got a meddling aunt who invites everybody round to get her own son married off, to be fair to her. But she wants to get her nephew married as well. And there's jewelry thefts, there's a murder, there's all sorts of intertwining things, but in the background there is the romance bubbling along between Amelia and Richard, and they're both attracted to one another, but think that this shouldn't be, if you like. They don't particularly want to like each other, but they do, particularly when Amelia insists on being the detective, if you like. So yes, it's good fun, and each of the stories is a friend. They've each got their own issues, and but they have to meet somebody who's worthy of them.
Oh, wonderful. And I love it. I love it when we get to see the same people over and over again too.
Yeah, I do enjoy writing a series for that, because you can keep the stories going in the background. The main characters become the side characters, don't they? And it is a lot of fun.
Yeah, I love that. I love when you get to see them again. That's one of my favorite things. Even if it's not, if it's not a family, then friends are the same way, where you get to see them when they're happy afterwards. Is this the first time that you've written a mystery, or is that something?
Yes, it is. I normally write Regency romance, sort of straightforward Regency romance, but I fancied something different, and this was the perfect opportunity to throw a bit of mystery in it. And I must admit, it has caused me to scratch my head a few times, but I've really enjoyed it. I've really enjoyed the extra challenge of intertwining the mystery in between the romance as well.
Yeah. Is it harder to do?
It is, because I'm not a plotter.
I know. I did wonder about that, because it does seem like you have to know all the pieces. In a romance, you kind of know what the trajectory is. You might not know exactly how they get there, but you kind of intuitively know these are the things that have to happen. In a mystery, you have to have a better understanding, I think, of where you're going. You can't just, flit about.
Yeah, that's what is common sense, unfortunately. You start at the beginning if you meet and you go, oh, I wonder what could happen next. It's sort of, so it does sort of get me gazing off into the distance a little bit. Sometimes thinking, oh, what have I done? What's this? But hopefully, touch wood, so far there hasn't been any major rewrites because of plot holes.
Oh, wonderful. I hate that feeling, that one where something's gone wrong and you don't know what it is.
Right.
And you just have sit there and go, please don't let it be big. Please don't let it be big. Let it be easily fixable. Oh, fun. So you said that you are not a plotter. Kathleen, what about you? Do you plot?
I'm totally a pantser. That's why I'm sitting here going, I don't think I could ever write a mystery. I can't think that far ahead, I guess. I mean, my characters change as I write them. So I end up, when I get to about the 35 percentage point, I got to turn around, because they've changed.
Yeah.
I'm trying to learn to outline. It's really, the struggle is real if you're a pantser. I'm trying to learn how to do it. Yes.
I have mixed feelings about whether it makes sense to force yourself into a process that isn't yours, because that idea of we'll talk about the sex scenes next, but I always skip them in the beginning when I'm writing through, because I don't know the people well enough until I'm about 3/4 of the way through the book, and then I have a good handle on who everybody is. But up until that point, I'm just kind of figuring them out the same way. And I remember you get to the end of the book and you're like, oh, those are not the people that started this.
I don't even know who these people are anymore.
Those are not them.
All over again. Yeah. I think that and when I say outline, I don't mean I'll never be able to do a true,
Emily
friends that do color-coded points of view and all, and that just makes my head hurt. I just don't think I can do it, right? But I think I've forced myself to at least put out the different points of where I know the story is going to go. And then and it has saved me some time. Saved me some time. So that's,
Well, that's something. I think there's something about discovering the book as it goes along, though, too, that I think is really appealing.
It makes it fun. It makes it kind of fun. Yeah.
That's it, because I always say I don't like the marketing side of things. I'd much rather be hiding behind my laptop. But the writing, if I plan too much, I would just not want to write it because I know what's going to happen. So for me, the writing is the real fun bit. And I do enjoy that sort of, how can I get my characters out of this situation?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, so for the marketing part of it, the way you have to think about it so that it might shift things in your head is that it's just storytelling. I mean, the marketing really is it's just storytelling, and all I'm trying to do when I'm advertising your books is how do I do it in a brief period of time so that people really have to find out more, that it's storytelling, and you are already good at that. So.
That's I was lucky because as a writer, I came into it with a marketing and advertising background. So I have virtually no fear of any of that because I did it for a living for so long. So that helps me. Now, talk to me about plotting and I'm going to get all nervous. So, yeah.
Well, something must be going right because we've got 4 more deadly sins to.
Yeah, you do. There are 4 more after this one for sure. There is. Yes, I've already started writing book 4. So,
Wow.
Well, yeah. Oh,
Where'd you go?
Hold on a minute. My computer just did that blindly. I'm not sure why. I'm writing and it never does it, but today it decided to do it to you, so I apologize.
No, we saw you the whole time. You just had like a little bit of a fear and panic look on your face.
Where are they? Where'd they go? No, I'm not. No, I didn't curse, so that's good.
That's a very good thing.
I almost did. I stopped myself. I bit my tongue.
C.H. Miranda is the one that I have to worry about.
Well, I tend to be a little salty, so I have to really think when I'm not to be salty.
So along those lines, we have both ends of the spectrum. I'm writing this time, not quite sweet, but Audrey, you said yours was sweeter with a soft sex scene.
Yes, which
okay,
when
you have to tell me what that
is. Well, when I was asked to put a soft sex scene in, I was like, oh, what's one of them? Because just that is definitely a term I'd never heard of before. So Google, I went on Dr. Google.
I want to know what happened.
There's everything on Google.
But I belong to the Romantic Novelists Association in the UK, and we have a group, and because I indie publish as well as now through Dragonblade, we have an indie group, and I went on there and went, what's a soft sex scene? It's just like, and someone said the description without actually describing the plumbing and how the plumbing works. And I was like, yes, I can do that.
Well, now that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. But particularly in this, the first book, because of Amelia's scars and her hang-ups and nervousness, it was quite easy to do the sort of the scene because it's more about the emotion of her revealing herself and in the and being sort of so vulnerable in front of somebody. But because it was the first one that I'd written, I got to chapter 18 and I was like, right, this is it. And I told my 2 beta readers that, right, look at chapter 18. Then I sent a message and went, I've chickened out. It's not chapter 18 now, it's chapter 20. So it was a case of, I can't write this yet. So, but we got there in the end.
Yeah. Awesome. And Kathleen, you're on exactly the opposite end of the spectrum.
I am. I'm probably, it's really interesting. I always, somebody will say, well, you're steamy, so how many sex scenes are in the book? And it really depends on the couple, right? In my mind, it depends on the couple. Some of them are just sexier than others. I don't know how else to put it. Some are more emotional, some aren't. It's really up to the couple that I'm writing about. And so, it depends. Truthfully, I read a lot of, they call it romantic suspense, but it's, the darker romances.
Mm-hmm.
I read a lot of those as well. And some of that tends to bleed into my historical romance. So I've had readers say, oh my God, I never thought anybody would say that in a historical romance. So I tend to get a little, I might be a little graphic for some, and then others think I'm not graphic enough. So I think that each reader, it's to their taste, whatever they're looking for. But I gotta have a little pizzazz in there. I got to allow an open door, wide open door. My doors are wide open.
Doors are open, the windows are open, the closets don't even have doors at this point.
The skirts are up over their heads. It's all, the playground is open for business. So, I don't hold anything back, or I try not to. But I also, it can get repetitive, right? So I think you have to be really careful with how you dish out your sex.
Yeah. Yeah, and it feels like, what Audrey was saying about it being emotionally motivated. The very best ones are, which is one of the reasons I think it's hard to write them in the beginning of the book, because you don't know who they are, you don't know how they'd react to each other at that, or unless you're a heavy plotter and know the people well ahead of time. But that idea that you have to really know your characters so you know how they can relate to each other, and that something about that intimacy has to move the story forward. It has to be about the vulnerability of her showing him her scars, or the fast driving. We don't want to like each other, but there's this thing that has to happen because we like each other. Thing that drives the story around, and I think that's really appealing, even if it doesn't come with open door sex. That kind of idea that this level of intimacy is moving the characters forward. I had a girlfriend who used to say, give me the sizzle, lots and lots and lots of the sizzle before you give me the steak, because
and she's right. I mean, you've got to have that tension build up. And I'm a big fan of humor. My books have a lot of humor in them. So to me, humor is super sexy, right? Yeah. Laughing is sexy, witty banter is sexy, hurling insults at each other is sexy. So I use that a lot in my books, because to me that is sexy. So, and it isn't actually sex. It's the buildup.
It's the sizzle.
Yeah, it's like moonlighting. Do you remember moonlighting?
Yes.
Years of sexual tension and buildup. It's moonlighting. Yeah, that's what I always think. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that makes perfect sense. And I love what you said before about the range, about the reader getting to pick what they want. And one of the things that I particularly like about Dragonblade is that you have everything from closed door, don't kiss, barely kiss kind of thing, the whole way to so sweet dreams the whole way to the flame line, which means you can pick what you want. What level of heat you're getting. Everybody can get exactly what they want in this space that they want it. And if you like more than one thing, or if you read across a range, there's a range that's there for you.
Yes.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just agreeing with you. I you're right. I think it's I think most readers are comfortable with romance because they want to know what they're getting. So I think that if you know what the heat level is, even if you've never read that author before, you can be sure of where they fall in the Dragonblade family. You can be sure of what you're going to get. So I think there's a level of comfort there.
Yeah. And that's interesting. You said that about romance readers being comfortable with knowing what they're going to get, because that's the promise that we make. If you sit down to read a romance, you will get a happily ever after. That's the promise that we make when we take a reader's time, is that you may not know exactly how they're going to get together, but you know that there's going to be at least a happily for now at the end of the book.
Yes.
Did you all read romance growing up?
Oh yeah.
So what was your first taste?
I suppose mine would have been Georgette Heyer. It's but as well, Jackie Collins.
Yes.
It's sort of the two extremes. It's again, it is like the extremes of Dragonblade. Georgette Heyer, where they kiss and it finishes, and Jackie Collins, which is completely the other side.
Yeah.
Mine was Valerie Sherwood.
I don't know her.
This Loving Torment. Oh, it's a
Oh, no,
bodice
see, I'm
ripper.
making notes this whole time.
It is a huge bodice ripper, and it came out when I was in middle school, right?
Tell me the name again.
This Loving Torment. And I was lucky enough to find a copy of it on eBay years ago, and I still have it. And I have reread it. And this poor woman, the heroine, she goes through at least 5 guys before she gets to the end. Right? So it is really this Loving Torment. And then the other one is Sweet Savage Love, Rosemary Rogers, right? Boy, does that give a teenage girl some expectations of relationships. Woo. Okay, so you don't want to follow that example, but I love those old time bodice rippers. I think I love them. I really do, because they're just such a snapshot into a different time. And I don't mean the time that they're writing about. I mean the time in which they were written. Yeah.
And I started in middle school too, under the chemistry table.
Right. Exactly. I kept it in my locker. I didn't want to take it home.
Yeah, no.
Well,
I could take it home because my mom didn't notice, and my dad thought it was okay because he read, he would read all the time and pass on his books. And I think they thought if I was reading, how bad could it be?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. There's a lot of non-consensual stuff going on in some of those books. So I'm not, but there's a whole Facebook group actually dedicated to the old time bodice rippers.
Oh, fun.
And everybody tries to collect the original copies of these books. And it's really a hoot to hear like your, 2023 self talk about a book that you read when you were 15.
Yeah.
It's just a completely different. Yeah, it's fun.
Well, Catherine talked about that once when she was on too. The idea that just because there's a part of us that loves that the grab me by the hair, here we go kind of thing, doesn't change who we are as women in the world. It's
Correct.
just another part of your character, and you can't deny is the wrong word for that, but to pretend like it doesn't exist is maybe not entirely authentic.
Yeah, I have to agree. The funny thing is, I may have told you this before, but when I was working on my master's, I actually had to write a paper on genre fiction, and I chose romance, and my professor poo-pooed me, but I still wrote it. And you can trace the rise of romance books, particularly historical romance books, directly to the sexual revolution, right in the 60s. Like the trajectories match each other. And it's because while you want to be this woman to the world, there's a part of you that wants a duke to rush up and take you away. So it was actually really interesting. And I did get an A. So there you go.
Yay. There's something
You had the last laugh.
Yes, I did. He mocked me for that. And I said, no. So, yeah.
There's something about claiming your pleasure too, whether it's kind of that explicit, on the page pleasure, or whether it's just the agency of a woman choosing her destiny, which I think is something that romance novels do particularly well too. And when they get criticized for being unrealistic, it's hard to say, well, it's not unrealistic to want somebody to treat you well, to want somebody to see you, to want somebody to love you, to care about what your desires are.
And I don't think that I always try to, in any of my books, whether they're Dragonblade books or my own books, all of my heroines are different, and they all pursue some sort of passion of their own within the confines of the time. And like, I don't make any of them like, head scientists or chemists or anything, but they all try to pursue something that they could have within the confines of the time period, because I think that is realistic. I mean, there were brilliant women, so they of course wanted to better themselves somehow within the confines of the time period.
Yeah. I'm watching brilliant women find a way to fit themselves into that's fascinating.
I find it admirable that they figured out a way, if you don't like the game, change the rules.
Yeah.
Change the game.
Yeah.
Right. So that's what they did. So I appreciate that. Yeah.
Wonderful. Ladies, it was delightful to talk to you today. We could keep going, and I would have a long list of recommendations. I'm going to go look up Madame Tussauds now because I want to know.
She's fascinating. She is absolutely fascinating. Yes.
She is. She's definitely worth looking up. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I am off to do that. But I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us today. I'm going to put the link for the books in the comments. So if you haven't gotten them already, you need to grab them right now. Dragonblade books are their very best deal on pre-order and release. But if you are not fast enough, or if you don't have a chance to watch this until next week, you can always read them free with your Kindle Unlimited subscription, which is fabulous if you are a voracious reader, because it means you can just go and go and go, and you can read across the range. So if you think you might like something, you can pick it up without having to think about it because it's right there.
Yeah.
All right, ladies, thanks for taking the time to talk to us. I really do appreciate it.
Thank
you for having us. Thank you.
Bye-bye.